International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOIL and Agricultural Development Bank.
Coming up on International Trade Focus.
As global trade continues to pick up at a steady pace, we shall take a look at measures being put in place at our revenue entry point to stimulate economic and trade activities. And later, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the Ministry of Trade and Industry officially inaugurates the Soya Bean Export Permit Committee as part of efforts to regulate the export of soya beans.
Now, as economies all over the world continue to adopt strategies that can help them recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the revival and rejuvenation of international trade activities has become critical to all countries. On today's edition of International Trade Focus, we shall take a look at how trade facilitation is being managed at this stage of the pandemic at all our revenue entry points to stimulate economic and trade activities. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Good Energy, ADB, Truly, Agric and more, Public Elegance and Pedias Valley Resort. My name is Anaskio. This is International Trade Focus. Stay tuned.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Are you an importer or exporter? Do you need quick financing at the best rate on the market? ADB has good news for you. Walk into any agricultural development bank location nationwide for that solution to all your trade financing needs. ADB offers you pre-financing of exports and imports, post-shipment credit facilities, bank guarantees, the issuance and acceptance of letters of credit, documentary bills for collection, outward documentary collection. Enjoy free advisory services from our well-trained dedicated trade officers. Exporters of agricultural products are encouraged to take advantage of this great service. For further enquiries, call us on 0302 210 210. ADB, making trade finance easy. ADB, Truly Agric and more.
Breathtaking picturesque views, the essence of tranquility recrafted. What's your desire? A romantic expedition, syndicate sessions, banquets and conferences, or a discreet weekend getaway? Just name it. It is exclusively packaged for you at Pedias Valley Resort. Every spacious rooms, ultra-modern gym facilities, games, indoors, terrace and lawn restaurants and lounges, cozy private dining, and all. The swimmer's paradise. Aquaba, any day, all year round to Pedias Valley Resort. The acts of serenity, skillfully served.
Right, if you just tuned in, you're watching International Trade Focus. Our 4 core point segment comes up next.
After a sharp decline in global trade as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, global trade is now bouncing back strongly than earlier projected. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development (UNCTAD), international trade activities has recorded a faster recovery from the recession caused by the pandemic than in the last two trade seasons. Global trade statistics shows that trade recovery from the COVID-19 crisis hit a record high in the first quarter of 2021, increasing by 10% year-on-year and 4% quarter-over-quarter. The report further indicates that the impressive rebound in the first two quarters of 2021 is mainly driven by the strong export performance by some leading exporting countries. However, the report indicates that trade in services remained substantially below average as a result of slow pace of recovery for tourism and hospitality sectors. In addition, the energy sector continues to lag and international trade in transport equipment remained well below averages. In Ghana, latest trade statistics indicates that international trade activities are picking up after registering some decline in 2020. The Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority that are in charge of the collection of import duties at Ghana's entry points are optimistic of reaching their revenue targets as trade volumes continue to register steady growth. The Commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority (GRA), Colonel DAMOAH, revealed that Customs was able to collect 12.3 billion cedis revenue in 2020, which exceeded their expected revised target of 10.9 billion cedis. Having positioned itself as a gateway to international trade in the sub-region, it's expected that Ghana's strategic geographical location will continue to attract transit goods meant for landlocked countries, thereby increasing container traffic volumes at the Tema and Takoradi ports. At the global level, the volumes of goods and services were expected to reach $6.6 trillion by the end of the second quarter of 2021. It's uncertain how trade patterns will be shaped through the year. Nevertheless, fiscal stimulus packages, especially in developed economies, are expected to strongly support the global trade recovery throughout 2021.
Retired Colonel DAMOAH is the Commissioner of the Customs Division (GRA) and our guest for today. Our in-depth segment promises to be insightful. Take a look. Let's look at an issue that's been trending for a couple of weeks now, duties. Now we know that the cost of freight has gone up astronomically, all due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and for customs to comply to international trade best practices, it is only right that you increase the duty, as duty is calculated on cost, insurance and freight. But here's the case where Guta is pleading that should you use the astronomical increase in freight, is going to affect them, which will trickle down to the consumers. So I believe there have been some talks with the GRA and all of that. How far with that, simply put? And do you think that their plea is legitimate? What can you do about this whole situation?
Okay. First and foremost, duties have not been increased. The build-up in the computation of the duties, it is cost, insurance and freight. So that will be the total against which you apply the duty rate. So the duty rate has been the same, no changes have taken place as per the budget. But because the freight, you have three elements constituting the figure upon which you apply the duty rate. So if one element has gone up, it means the total will go up. So if the costs were to remain the same, and insurance were to remain the same, and even freight alone were to go up, it means that the cost, insurance and freight figure now will go up. But you also know that in some cases, because of COVID, cost of production has gone up, and therefore the cost of items have also now gone up. So that is what is causing that fear or that concern that duties, it is not the duties, it is the build-up in applying the duty rate to the figure that you use that has gone up. So now if the formula is cost, insurance, and freight. And therefore, the figure you get times the duty rate, then anything that affects any of the three elements automatically means that the figure that you get to which you apply the duty rate has gone up, and therefore you are likely to get a higher figure. Their concerns are genuine because once cost elements are going up, anybody who does business for profits will be expressing some concerns about that. So it's something that genuinely they are expressing their concerns and fears about. So we cannot begrudge them for doing that. But we have explained to them, and they understand that it is because of what is happening internationally, what is happening globally to the cost buildup. So it is not as if customs suddenly have decided that we are increasing the duty rate. We have not increased the duty rate, but because the component has gone up, it is affecting the total. They've come, we've had some dialogues, we are still continuing with the dialogue, and we are looking at the impact. You know, already we have the benchmark discount in place, where the government listened to the concerns of GUTA and other stakeholders and said that effective April 2019, all goods that came into the country, except vehicles, will have their values reduced by 50%. And then, so that value, so you take the cost, insurance, and freight value, then you apply 50% of before you apply the duty rate. So that is still being enjoyed. So government has demonstrated good faith to GUTA, to importers, that yes, we are concerned about the taxes that you pay. And because we apply the duty rate to the values that you present, we have agreed that whatever value you present, we would reduce it by 50% if it is not vehicles. If it is vehicles, we reduce it by 30%. It is up to our brothers and sisters in the trade to also demonstrate sincerity. Now, it will surprise you to know that in spite of this facility, some of them will still want to prepare separate invoices for goods that they bought at prices that they know, transactional value, what they really paid. If you went out and you bought something at $1,000, the value is $1,000. Okay, so if you come and then the duty rate is applied and you say you pay $50, you bought $1,000, you pay $50 as duty, you convert. Certainly, when you are going to add your profit margin, you take into account the 1,050. You are not going to say, but here's the case. He knows that he paid 1,000, or the importer paid 1,000, but whoever is clearing, either the agent or the declarant, self-declarant, is not going to say that I didn't buy it at 1,000, but I bought it at 100. He presents an invoice for 100, and that 100 again is going to be reduced by 50%. You see, so if sincerely you bought it at 1,000, and you brought documents showing that you bought it at 1,000, and you are enjoying the 50% reduction in value, so that the duty rate of say 5% is applied to the 500 instead of the 100 that you have, you know. So we continue to engage them to appreciate what government has done for them so far, because our neighbors, I have had the opportunity to have discussions with my Ivorian and Togolese counterparts, and they've been expressing concern about that. Now, how come that against World Customs Organization, World Trade Organization, Trade Facilitation Agreement, we are reducing values, you know, so it makes our goods cheaper than theirs, so theirs become less competitive, and so by we explained, you know, using some means that no, we haven't reduced values, but it's the duty that after the duty you are allowed to reduce it, not, but the value, the cost, you are not supposed to do that because it distorts international trade and data on trade, you know. So we will continue to engage them. The GUTA people, like any rational profit-making person or enterprise, will want to have the cheapest possible, right? And then get the biggest profit margin. So if cost is going up, naturally it affects their profit. But you would realize that the aim was not only to help members of GUTA, but also the ultimate consumer. But people have been questioning, and all of us know. When the reduction was given in April 2019, the expectation was that when the stocks that had been based on the old values and duties got finished, the new stocks that were coming in, because they were paying at half for all goods other than vehicles, prices generally were going to go down. But unfortunately, that never happened. All studies have shown that prices never came down. So it made people to think that this facility that was given to GUTA at best helped only GUTA members and not the ultimate consumer, which was the main concern of government. So in the same way, the fear is that if we were to allow them not to apply the new rates of freight, but to use the existing one, so that we added that again to advantage of the 50% and 30% discount, probably we will not still have this translated into lower prices on the market. And if it happens that way, then it means, so we need to engage all stakeholders, including consumers, GUTA, and our good selves, and then also be guided by the best practices of WCO and WTO. And I believe once we engage, we'll come to a very amicable settlement, and things will be done rightly, and all the affairs will be allayed.
And they're also talking about the fact that these freight increases are merely temporary. So maybe based on that, you'll be able to,
For now, we are all hoping that it will be temporary. But these days, you are unable to tell, because who will be able to predict what the COVID situation will be? We had hoped that come latter part of last year, early part of this year, Ghana was gradually, and then the third wave and all that. So we need to tread cautiously and just look at the trend analysis. And if everything points to the fact that this is going to be a temporary or it's going to, then appropriate measures will be put in place. After all, we are there for them, they're also there for us. So there's no point litigating over matters that can be resolved amicably based on accepted best practices.
Now to my favorite topic, the continental free trade. I mean, we are all aware that trading under the continental free trade has commenced. And first of all, I always like to ask this: how would you assess the level of progress so far before we take a look at some challenges and how to address them? So how would you assess the level of progress of our continental free trade?
Okay, first we need to know the background of this whole thing. We had been with Organization of African Unity, which later changed to African Union, and the expectation was that after the first 50 years, we will see some remarkable economic development in our continent. And so by 2013, when the 50-year celebration was ongoing, then with the AU new concept, they said, no, we needed to have a master plan that would really work in favor of Africans, that will make it possible for us to industrialize, that will make it possible for us to do more of intra-African trade rather than trading with the outside world. And we have the potential. In terms of human beings, 1.2 billion people in Africa, or 55 countries. And then in terms of GDP, we are talking about 2 trillion, right? So the market is huge, the potential is there, industrialization has to be undertaken, and we need to move. So by 2018, finally in Kigali, Rwanda, we agreed that we are going, and fortunately Ghana fought for and had the right to have the headquarters here. So we are among the first countries to ratify this thing in 2018. Now, the trade agreement looks at trade in goods and services, and then also looks at investment, protection rights, intellectual property, settlement of disputes and all that. So they've been put in phases. So if you take the phase one, we are looking at trade in goods and services, and then also the settlement of disputes. And then under that, we have the various annexes. And we are looking at tariff concessions, we are looking at rules of origin, we are looking at trade facilitation, we are looking at transit, we are looking at non-tariff. So all that, the preparations towards it first and foremost. Ghana, we are fortunate, we've done our homework well. The appropriate legislations, instruments have been laid, and so it means we are ready to go. And as at the time that we launched it on the 1st of January this year, even though it was late by about 5 months because of COVID, we had managed to issue the first certificate of origin to Casapreco, and then they shipped some consignment to South Africa and all that. So looking at it from that angle, it would seem that we are on course. What is left is that we need to do more education and sensitization. In fact, we had meetings of customs administration. If you look at the 9 annexes, customs are responsible for 6 of them. Okay, so the 6 requires that customs to customs administration, cooperation, mutual assistance must be paramount, so that we'll be able to do that. On the rules of origin, for instance, all member countries that have ratified are supposed to have designated competent authorities to deal with these matters. Luckily for us, we, Customs of Ghana, were issued with that authorization. The Minister for Trade and Industry did that on the 30th of December 2020. So Customs is the designated competent authority in Ghana to determine the rules of origin. So we issued the certificate. So I was privileged to issue the first certificate to Kasapa. Now, if you look at trade concessions, that's a major area, and it calls for negotiations. And a lot of negotiations are taking place before the full implementation of the ban. So there are a few areas. Now, the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement was based on the assumption that the existing economic communities of the various parts of the continent will be used to make it easier for the whole continent to come together. So if you take the western part of Africa, ECOWAS, we have our common tariffs, and this is what we are supposed to use. So all member countries of ECOWAS are supposed to use that, and that's what has been provided to the African Union Commission. So they will use that to assess us. Now, if you look at the statistics, we are only about 7 months in the agreement, so we are unable to tell the real gains, but it is all the potential gains that we are looking at. But if you look at the statistics that Africa as it is, intra-African trade is only 17%. We do more trade with outsiders than with ourselves. So we are last, followed by Latin America, where we have 22%. Then we go to Asia, and then Europe tops America. So what can we do? If you do the tariff concessions, you do the negotiations, and you don't take advantage of it, you've lost it. So it means that we need to do more of local production that will have surpluses for exports, right? If we don't take advantage to export more, but rather make it possible for people to export to us, to do more imports, then we are not likely, because if we do the tariff concessions and we come to a certain agreement, then the imports are going to come in free. So if they come in free, but you are also unable to make exports to also enjoy from the markets of other African countries, then it means we are going to lose. So that's where, but fortunately for us, the government has started with its quest to have industrialization in Ghana. 1D, 1F, and all that really responds to that. So we need to encourage our entrepreneurs to take advantage of this. We've had stakeholder engagements with the various financial institutions. We have an African Import and Export Bank that is prepared to give financial assistance in all this. So what we need to do now is to intensify the education, the campaign, the sensitization, so that we look at the resources that we have, where we can set up industries which will qualify for certificates of rules of origin, because the rules of origin will determine whether or not you will benefit from these trade concessions. This whole thing is to encourage African member countries to trade among ourselves. And you trade by either exporting or importing or doing both. Now, but where you get the benefit most is where you export more rather than importing. So I was giving the statistics about the level of intra-African trade, which is the lowest in the whole world. Now we have this opportunity, and we can only take advantage of it when we make sure that our local entrepreneurs, our people, really take advantage and produce and then have surpluses for exports, or produce with the intention of exporting. You know, so there are some companies that specialize in only exports. So if we're able to do that, then we will be taking advantage of this African Continental Free Trade Area. And if you look at the 9 annexes, for which customs are responsible for 6 of them, the tariff concession and then the rules of origin really play important roles.
Colonel, so when it comes to the rules of origin, please explain it better to us, because you find out that even some importers who are supposed to know much about this have very little knowledge on it.
Okay. Now, rules of origin simply is that we are talking about Africa. We are talking about member countries. So the first thing is that the commodity, the good or the service that you are talking about, you are talking trade in goods and services. So the good or the service in which you are going to trade, one, is wholly made or manufactured in that member country. Wholly. So everything, all the raw material from beginning to end, that's the wholly. So if that commodity or that service is wholly made or manufactured in that member country, then it qualifies to be given the certificate of origin. That you have this certificate indicating that this commodity was wholly produced in Ghana and therefore qualifies for that tariff concession within the community, the market area. The second provision is substantially. You know that we live in an interdependent world. So in some cases, it is not possible for every bit of a product or a service to have been produced wholly in a member country. So we will look at the level of that transformation, that substantial part that was produced in that member country to qualify for that certificate of origin. So when we look at it from that angle, then we are looking at value addition. How much value have you added? Or in terms of non-origin materials, how much has come from outside and how much have you added? So if the balance tilts in favor of more coming, that's what they are saying, substantial. So the transformation in terms of getting the product or service, majority or a greater part of it has come from that member country. Then that member country qualifies for that certificate of origin. Okay. And in some cases, you have to modify the HS code to make it. So the whole essence is that we are saying that goods and services that have been produced in the market area are the ones that will qualify for these tariff concessions. So you need to be sure. And that's why every country, every member country is required to have a designated competent authority to certify that. In Ghana, the responsibility has been bestowed on Customs. But Customs is supposed to work hand in hand with Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, other stakeholders like Ghana Standards Authority, Food and Transport. So all of us put together will now visit areas where production is taking place of the good or the service. And then come to that determination that going by the rules, either wholly, this item has been produced using materials from Ghana only, or substantially, most of the things that are needed in the production of this have come from Ghana and therefore certify or meet the requirement of certification of rules of origin. So that certificate, before it is issued, has to follow the accepted best practice as enunciated by World Customs Organization and World Trade Organization. So it's not just us, but AU in partnership with existing best practices of World Customs Organization and World Trade Organization on rules of origin. So that is what it really borders to. So any product that is living will have to carry that certificate. before the member country to which it is going as export and they are receiving as import will accept it under the agreement that we've reached with them. So the Casapreco product that we ship to South Africa, we issued a certificate of origin. South African customs accepted the formula used, that it was consistent with WCO and WTO rules, and therefore it met that criteria to say that indeed it was made either wholly in Ghana or substantially based on the raw material content and whatever went into it.
Right, right. That's the rules of origin. Okay.
You're watching International Trade Focus, and this is our in-depth segment. We're having a conversation with retired Colonel DAMOAH, Commissioner of the Customs Division GRA. The conversation continues after this break. Stay tuned.
Breathtaking picturesque views, the essence of tranquility recrafted. What's your desire? A romantic expedition, syndicate sessions, banquet and conferences, or a discreet weekend getaway? Just name it. It is exclusively packaged for you at Peduasi Valley Resort. Every spacious rooms, ultra-modern gym facilities, games, indoors, terrace and lawn restaurants and lounges, cozy private dining, and all. The swimmer's paradise. Aquaba, any day, all year round to Peduasi Valley Resort. The acts of serenity, skillfully served.
Here's innovation from Goyle that takes you further. New Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and Goyle has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. Goyle. Good energy.
Right, so we just tuned in. You're watching International Trade Focus, and this is our in-depth segment. We're having a conversation with retired Colonel DAMOAH, the Commissioner of the Customs Division GRA. Stay tuned.
So now we have to look at all the things that are involved, the various protocols and annexes, and the phase one. So the phase one, we are talking mainly about trade in goods and services, and then also talking about settlement of disputes. And then under the trade in goods and services, we have those 9 things, the non-tariff barriers. The only ones that customs are not responsible for are the technical barriers, phyto and phytosanitary. And then we also have transit being the responsibility of customs. Now, in Ghana, we're having challenges with our transit. Our landlord brothers, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, they depended so much on us. And we had challenges where we could not really effectively monitor the movements of goods from our ports to these countries without the fear or the danger of diversion. Luckily, it is also provided for in this African Continental Free Trade Agreement that customs to customs by cooperation and assistance, mutual assistance, should be able to ensure that transit goods really turn out to be transit goods, and we don't have. while we were trying to change from our existing system, GCNet and WestBlue, to ICOMS, a system had been developed for West Africa, and other countries had already started using it. But we, because if we had started with GCNet, it meant when we introduced ICOM, we needed to, so we pleaded with ECOWAS headquarters to allow us time to develop ICOMS, so that after developing ICOMS, we could also get hooked onto it. So initially, all member countries were supposed to have hooked onto it by December 2019, and we asked permission to be given some more time because we had not started ICOMS fully as at that time. So initially, they will give us up to 31st March 2020, and finally to June ending 2020. But unfortunately, because of COVID, so they allowed. So it is now that we've had the opportunity to have various meetings with other member countries, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Burkina Faso, and Mali, and ECOWAS is supporting, GIZ of Germany is also supporting. So last week, we had a session at Aliza Hotel on it, and the technical people from ECOWAS came, and we are making significant progress on that. Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina and Togo have fully hooked onto that system. And they, luckily, Cote d'Ivoire has rail system linking Cote d'Ivoire to Burkina and road system. And with the transit, it is usually road and rail. We are fortunate, at least they have done it. So we are going to learn from the experiences and build upon it. And they had the support of ECOWAS Commission, the IT department and all that, and they were there. So we've set timelines, and Ghana is going to start with Cote d'Ivoire. And you know, Ghana is also constructing a road to link Ghana with Burkina. So Cote d'Ivoire is the best country to have that practical experience with. And so we've set timelines with ECOWAS facilitators, AU and GIZ. And the expectation is that by the time we finish this, by the end of this year, Ghana will also be fully hooked to the SIGMAT. It's called SIGMAT. So it's the transit system for West Africa. So what it brings on board is that all member countries will have a full view of the movement of goods from one country to another. So if a consignment leaves Tema and the destination is Niamey or Bamako or Ouagadougou, all member countries will see the movement of this consignment from Tema. It goes into the system, everybody sees it. So as the consignment moves, wherever it stops or whatever happens to it, all member countries know. So the destination countries or the intermediary countries, if, for instance, goods are leaving Ghana through Burkina to, say, Mali. So Ghana is the originating country, Burkina serves as intermediary country, and the final destination is Mali or Niger or whatever. So Burkina should be interested in goods that have left Tema and are destined to either Burkina itself or through Burkina too. So when the goods leave Ghana's territory, it shows. So now everybody knows that this consignment has left Ghana, it is heading or it has already entered Burkina. So Burkina is also now on the radar, and everybody sees the movement of. So if a consignment meant for a particular country does not reach, it is not only the countries involved, but all other member countries will know about the movement of it. If it disappears, which we hope will not happen, everybody will get to know that this consignment that left Tema and was meant for Bamako vanished somewhere around Tamale or whatever. So this is a good piece of news and joy for all of us, especially.
Similar to the cargo tracking note.
The cargo tracking notes had been there, but we were having challenges. You might have heard about. It's a device. It had its own challenges. There were instances where people said that vehicles broke down on the way, and the cargo tracking system had batteries, and the batteries had some expiry date or some, So after a while, the tracking device goes off, and you're unable to tell the correct destination of this or where it got to before, and all sorts of allegations were being made that people could even tamper with the tracking system, and therefore, but this one, because it's multilateral, multinational, if no country can, if it's moving and our system has a challenge, the others will see it. So, and they must be interested. If goods have left Tema and they are meant for Mali, and they don't get there, Mali should be concerned just as Ghana or Burkina, about it. So, because the whole essence of transit is that if the landlocked countries were to be charged as goods coming to home consumption here, by the time goods get to those landlocked countries, they'll be so expensive. So that's how come international best practices, World Customs Organization, World Trade Organization will say that, okay, if it is transit, apart from handling charges that will be incurred at the first port of call, all other duties will not be paid. So then they will be able to send the goods to their country where duties will be paid there. So then there won't be multiplicity of payment of duties, which will add to cost of goods and therefore cost of living in those countries. So it is in the interest of the destination countries as well as the originating countries to ensure that goods meant for transit are actually meant for transit and will reach their final destination and not vanish along the way or have any. So this is a more assuring way because of the stakeholders involved as compared to the cargo tracking system, which has, when it leaves here, it's only Ghana. Until it gets to Burkina, Burkina doesn't have anything about it, But this one, every member country, once the goods are leaving, are aware of the movement of the goods in the system. So
okay,
it's
so
good for all of us.
Yeah, it's obviously good. Kind of, let's take a look at this. Some exporters are complaining about the fact that, yes, continental free trade has been implemented, yet there's no uniformity in terms of tariffs. So, Customs Division, what do you think needs to be done about it?
You remember I said that this whole thing was built on the existing infrastructure that we had. The existing infrastructure is the economic communities of the various blocks in Africa. So if ECOWAS is doing this work very well, East African community, South African community, Maghreb, everybody is doing their job very well. Already there's a common tariff among those member countries, and they negotiate with others. And so all the member countries in ECOWAS have one tariff, and we are all to abide by that. So this fear may not really be, provided all member countries are respecting the rules as per the agreements that have been reached. So I think it is because in the past, but I know that as of now, all member countries are committed. That's how come our brothers in La Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina were complaining about the 50% and 30% thing that we're doing. Because if all of us, so if it is tariff is the same, if it is value, we expect that there will be a common value for all products coming into our sub-region. So we still need to work hard to ensure that once agreements have been reached, once protocols have been signed, once we are all committed to it. That's why in the case of the tariff, they say commitment, the concessions, the commitment to it. So it's not just a matter of negotiating for it. You negotiate and ensure that you are committed to its implementation. And once that is done, I'm sure we'll get the full benefits of the free market that we are all aspiring to have.
So that does it for the continental free trade, but we can't leave without talking about GRA going cashless. So let's talk about that. What does this present for customers and GRA itself?
Cashless. We are all looking more and more increasingly at options that do not make it possible for the payer of the tax and the receiver of the tax to handle the money. But you create a platform that will disengage GRA officials from the taxpayer. So the taxpayer has a platform where he will pay and just indicate, and it will show in the system that payment has been effected. The idea is to minimize possibility of people collecting money, keeping them, and paying late or not paying at all, and all the possibility of all sorts of leakages. So theoretically, it is the best that should happen. Customs, all our payments are done electronically. You don't have, going to, you have to pay through the bank or something. So it is the same thing we want to do for the domestic tax revenue division that had been accepting manual way of people were allowed in the past to bring their own checks to our offices. They will go and deposit, and in some cases the checks will bounce and all that. But this one, you, the taxpayer, are supposed to go to any of the platforms provided to effect the payment and show that you have actually done the payment. What is left now is the real education and for the system to work. We are having feedback on people getting to the banks, queuing, and then the system for GRA on the Ghana.gov. They claim all other MMDAs, theirs work faster, but that of GRA, understandable. The volume, the traffic is more on GRA than the others. So we are trying to put the best system in place to make sure that while we have internet facilities all over, and we have these banking facilities and other payment platforms, such that people will not go to the banks or go to these platforms and have challenges with payment. They will not go and queue for long hours. Taxpayers want the easiest way of paying taxes, the most comfortable way of paying taxes, so that they don't go through hustle and bustle and then become frustrated in the attempt to discharge their civic responsibility. So we have to also do everything in our power to ensure that the various platforms are easily accessible and will work such that the taxpayer gets there within a second minute, he's done with business, and that will encourage them to do self-compliance rather than in the past we're chasing them. So now if you want them to come themselves to go and pay, then it means you have to do everything possible to make it easy, very, very easy for them. And they get there, the platform is there, they effect the payment, and within the shortest possible time, they're off. If a taxpayer goes to the bank and queues, they say the system is down for hours, he goes, comes back, the next moment he will not come. But it is in our interest to ensure that things work faster, better, in a manner that will encourage taxpayers to want to go to do that without wanting to give cash to any tax officer, because the facility is no longer there, and the right way is to go cashless.
Right, so we are about wrapping up, but I want to find out this from you, the commissioner in charge of the Customs Division, GRA. What legacy do you he will leave behind?
I wish you had asked my officers this question. Okay, when I had my first meeting with my deputy commissioners at the time this happened, I said that by my nature, anywhere that I go, I want to leave a mark, I want to leave a legacy. I want to be remembered for something. I know in the armed forces, I had a problem with the implementation of the regional balance in recruitment of people, and that became a legacy because everybody appreciated that. Every part of the country would have their fair share. It's all about equity. I believe in fairness, I believe in justice. And I told them I wanted to be fair and just to everybody. In my appointments, selecting people, selecting males, females, and putting people in place, I look at their seniority in service, their seniority in rank, their seniority in age, their competences. And everybody appears to know that when it gets to those things, I try to be fair, firm, and just to everybody. And so when I'm fighting not because I want a particular person, but because I believe that that person is the right person. And then, so they know that I am there for them. And the welfare and the well-being of your subordinates should be of paramount importance to you than you yourself. And so I offer selfless service to them, and they are aware of that. I told you I did an HR audit. The levels were low in terms of staffing, and we are gradually building up. This year, we've had 2 groups going for 20. We would have wished to have more. When I did my HR audit, we needed about 2,000 plus officers between 2020 and 2022. So far, we are getting about 500 under training now. My hope and expectation is that the board, top management will agree that we will recruit some more people. Because a lot of officers are retiring. If you look at the attrition rate, and we are losing a lot of officers through death and other forms of attrition. So they know that I'm committed to improving upon the living conditions, working conditions of officers, improving upon the image of customs division. All the negative things about customs, I want those to be a thing of the past. And I tell them, they only can make customs proud. And wherever I went, I was using some mnemonics, plan, P-L-A-N. And the plan, P stands for proportionality, L stands for legitimacy, A stands for accountability, and N stands for necessity. So in everything that you are doing, use the mnemonics plan. First, even though it goes plans so that you can remember, the first thing is legitimacy. Whatever you are doing, where can you find the legal basis for doing that? It has to be permitted by either the Customs Act, the legislative instrument, or any rule or that is there. So if you don't have it, you don't arbitrarily on your own decide to do anything. So whatever you do must have a legal basis. So that's legitimacy. Then necessity. Something is legitimate, but is it necessary in the circumstances to do it? In some cases, if you look at the cost-benefit analysis, if you are going to, say, chase a smuggler, and the item in question is of, say, 100 cedis value, and the vehicle and the men and the resources you commit into chasing that smuggler will far outweigh. So it's legitimate that you chase the smuggler, but it may not be necessary in the circumstances. Looking at your resources and the risk, there have been instances where you look at what caused an accident using a pickup to chase a motorbike that has something small on it, and then you ended up throwing away the whole pickup in terms of cost and everything. So even though it was legitimate to chase smugglers, looking at that act and the resources you were committing, it was probably not necessary. Okay, this is just an example. And then proportionality. So you look at the cost-benefit analysis again and what needs to be done in terms of classification, valuation, and you are looking at a sustainable means of having revenue. So in some cases, you need to engage the stakeholders and find a better way. So you may be losing some small margins, but that small margin, if you were to do the cost-benefit analysis and you're having a more sustainable way of getting an assured revenue, then probably it's better to do that than to try to insist on something that will be a one-time benefit, but then you lose out completely. The last of the components of the mnemonics is accountability, which comes under plan. Okay, whatever you do, you'll be held accountable, and therefore you must first judge yourself and see whether what you are doing is the right thing, whether the law permits you to do that, and whether you can always justify taking that action. Okay, so if you don't go through that, you may end up having problem for yourself. But if you know that you can justify your action, then I encourage them to do that. And I always believe in delegation of authority. Wherever I go, I empower my officers, the sector commanders, my deputy commissioners. That look, I don't want to be seen to be running your department or your sector for you. Ultimate responsibility rests with me, but you will also be held accountable for what happens in your sector. So I give you the flow. And again, based on the same understanding that you do the right thing, and if it goes bad, you'll be held accountable. So when you try to micromanage people, first you start from initiative. You don't build their confidence. And that's also one of the things that my officers, I give them the opportunity to, and then if they come back and there's something wrong, then of course I will reprimand you when I need to. But I give you See, if you don't do that, always the slightest thing, they want to come to the commissioner. And if you do that, it means work that has to be done fast. We are in this trade facilitation. You want to do business, ease of business, the cost of doing business being the cheapest possible. So time is of essence. If every little thing has to be referred to the commissioner, certainly it's not. And so when I tell them that, and I allow them to, they also deal with it. That's in your sector. And when we have interagency meetings and issues come, I say, look, I don't want people to be coming to me. If you're in Tema and GPHA officer, director of post, and there's an issue at Tema, I first expect you to engage the sector commander in Tema, but not to come to me before I go back. When you do that, the confidence with which, and then, people think that, okay, if you bypass me to my boss and now you are coming back to me, so I won't also give up my best because you didn't respect me. So respect the authority of the person who has been placed in that order of hierarchy and let them play their role very well. And once they do that, then it builds their confidence and they are able to do things without necessarily involving the commissioner in all cases. So these are things that I think my officers like, they don't know what to do. I challenge them to do the work and report to me only when it is sincerely above them. But as much as possible, they should deal with issues. Tell me. It is better to seize the initiative wrongly than not to do anything at all. Because in time is of essence. If something is going to happen on the spur of the moment, if you don't take that action and you want to get, by the time maybe you get me and I react, it may be catastrophic. So, but if you take even a wrong initiative and it saves lives, it saves a situation, it's better than not doing anything at all, or just waiting, folding your arms, and then. So, probably if you see my officers and you ask them, they will tell more about what I intend. But I think I want to leave a customs division that is contented with itself, that is well motivated, that is proud, eager, and willing to work, sacrifice for Mother Ghana. They need the respect, the sense of pride of customs officers. It was going down, but with my encouragement and motivation, customs officers now feel proud, and that's what I like about it, that they must stand up. I say that the whole world, it is only customs that plays two key important roles. I say key, if you take history, the kingdom, those days when we had empires, the empires and whatever. First, you want to have a geographical area that you assert your authority over, that you call your jurisdiction. And once you have that area, you need to have security for that area. You need to have revenue, because everything is money. So in the past, they were collecting taxes from their subjects and all that, and they were at the same time making sure that they provide security, because otherwise some other emperor somewhere will come and conquer you. So you always needed to have your security and all that. Customs is the only organization in the world that provides the two simultaneously. They provide security and they provide revenue. All other institutions, they either provide one or the other. If you take the armed forces, security, they don't provide money. If you take the police, security, they don't provide money. All the others, okay? If you take the other divisions in GRA, they provide revenue. They don't provide security. So it's only Customs Division of Ghana Revenue that I say with pride that the two important traditional rules from Adam and Eve, security and revenue providers. So we should be respected and pampered, and that is how I want my customs.
You've confirmed what they said. You've confirmed what they said. Remember, retired Colonel DAMOAH is the Commissioner of the Customs Division, GRA, and our guest for today. There's more after this break. Don't go away. And that does it for this week's edition of In That Segment. There's more after this break. Don't go away.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry, supported by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, is taking steps to regulate the indiscriminate export of soya beans from Ghana. The government of Ghana, acting to this end, a regulatory body known as the Soya Bean Export Permit Committee has been established. The Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Alan Chematin, commissioned the 7-member Soya Bean Export Permit Committee on Friday, 6 August 2021. With a mandate to ensure that the quantity of soya beans being exported does not create shortage on the local market. For some time now, local processors of soya beans and poultry farmers have been complaining of high export of the produce at the expense of domestic use and consumption. This is happening at a time when the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is heavily subsidizing the production of soya beans under the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative.
Are you an importer or exporter? Do you need quick financing at the best rate on the market? ADB has good news for you. Walk into any agricultural development bank location nationwide for that solution to all your trade financing needs. ADB offers you pre-financing of exports and imports, post-shipment credit facilities, bank guarantees, the issuance and acceptance of letters of credit, documentary bills for collection, outward documentary collection. Enjoy free advisory services from our well-trained, dedicated trade officers. Exporters of agricultural products are encouraged to take advantage of this great service. For further enquiries, call us on 0302 210 210. ADB, making trade finance easy. ADB, truly agric and more.
And it's a wrap for today's edition of International Trade Focus. Join us same time next week for some more on international trade-related activities here in Ghana and beyond. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOIL Good Energy, ADB, Truly, Agric and more, Public Elegance and Pediasi Valley Resort. My name is Anaspio. Join us same time next week. Bye-bye.